The radio crackled to life at 11:58 a.m. on December 7, 1941, just as Dorothy Polson stood elbow-deep in dishwater. And the announcement that Japanese planes had turned Pearl Harbor into an inferno shattered her quiet Sunday routine. Her husband Frank looked up from his newspaper, jaw tightening as he silently calculated how many months remained before his draft notice arrived. And within 6 weeks, he was gone, leaving Dorothy to stand 8 weeks later outside Boeing's massive Plant 2 in Seattle, staring up at a building the size of 4 city blocks while wondering if the employment office had sent her to the wrong place. Though she was far from alone. 300 women stood shivering in the January cold, breath fogging in the air, clutching newspaper clippings that screamed "women needed for war work," most of them having never held anything heavier than a cast-iron skillet, including a former librarian, a longtime seamstress, and a beauty parlor owner from Ballard, all reporting for aircraft assembly training for bombers that would soon carry the war back to Tokyo. The factory floor hit Dorothy like a physical force. Pneumatic riveters chattered violently, metal shears screamed, and engine tests thundered through the cavernous building, where haze from metal dust and welding sparks blurred the opposite wall as skeleton fuselages hung from overhead cranes like chrome whalebones. Men in grease-stained coveralls moved with fluid confidence, and as the women walked in, the men slowly stopped working in a ripple of crossed arms and narrowed eyes. A foreman near the B-17 wing section, chewing on a cigar stub, muttered loudly about housewives who couldn't tell a rivet gun from a church bell, drawing laughter from his crew as one man joked about betting how many women would quit by Tuesday. Dorothy and the others were handed over to their instructor, Herb Kowalski, a 46-year-old Boeing veteran who resented being assigned to train women, and held up a rivet gun like a weapon as he warned them it wasn't a sewing machine, weighed 8 pounds, kicked like a mule, and would break their wrists if they weren't careful. Paired with a nervous blonde named Peggy, Dorothy struggled through the first attempts as rivets bent sideways and the gun slipped in her weak grip, while Herb circled them with the disdain of a disappointed schoolmaster, criticizing angles and pressure without ever offering actual solutions. The manual he referenced was a 70-page technical document filled with foreign terms like bucking bar technique and flush countersink installation, meaningless to women who had folded laundry the day before. By noon, Dorothy's arms throbbed from vibration, her ears rang despite cotton plugs, and her back ached from hunching over while men snickered at the cafeteria as the women sat separately, their locker banked to face with Rosie's retirement home in chalk. Yet amidst the hostility, Dorothy noticed details. Herb's particular rhythm, 3 quick pulses, pause, tap, his body positioning, the subtle efficiency of men who let the tool work instead of muscling it. That night, instead of going home to her empty apartment, Dorothy went to the Seattle Public Library and checked out engineering books, reading until 3 a.m. and teaching herself everything Herb refused to explain. The next morning, in freezing rain, she arrived early to practice, and even though her rivets were still ugly, they held. The theory she learned, compression ratios, fatigue tolerances, began connecting to the metal beneath her hands. Tuesday was worse for everyone else. Bandaged fingers and tear-streaked faces greeted her, and Peggy tearfully admitted her mother said women weren't built for factory labor, to which Dorothy handed her gloves and replied, "Your mother isn't building bombers. We are." Herb then launched into an overwhelming lecture about B-17 wing structure, 47,000 parts per aircraft, 12,000 rivets in each wing, tolerances within 5/1000ths of an inch, warning that sloppiness could kill aircrews at 20,000 feet. The morning assignment involved rivet lines on curved aluminum that made the gun slip and angles shift constantly. But Dorothy recalled what she'd read about compound curves and approached each rivet individually. By her 5th rivet, she found a rhythm, completing her section in 42 minutes. Herb passed silently, but the silence itself felt like victory. Lunch brought new humiliation, a toy tea set planted on the women's table. But Dorothy picked up the tiny plastic teapot, examined it, and said loudly, "Cute, but I prefer tea from adult cups," wiping the smirks off nearby faces. The afternoon retaliated. Her rivet gun malfunctioned with a stuck pressure valve, and Herb shrugged it off, so she took it apart herself and fixed it with a wire brush, earning a tight-jawed glare. The day's final test required 18 perfect rivets with 0 failures, and Dorothy passed while many trainees dropped out. By Wednesday, only 24 of the original 37 remained. Soon Dorothy found herself working on real aircraft components, assigned to the wing rib subsection under Ale Mackey, a grizzled master builder who viewed her presence as an insult and handed her a nightmare blueprint with 42 countersunk holes requiring flawless tolerances. She studied it for 10 silent minutes, then broke it into 5 manageable steps, an engineering technique she'd learned from library books, and executed each operation with methodical precision, practicing countersinks on scrap and realizing consistency came not from skill, but from proper tool setup. 6 hours later, she presented Ale with a perfect rib assembly and earned a pained acceptable before he handed her the next blueprint. At home, she copied blueprints into a notebook, creating her own training manual. Other women noticed, borrowing notes as Dorothy's name slowly appeared on the production board. 7 components, then 12, then 15. By week 9, she completed 19, surpassing Ale and nearly matching the factory record of 22. Management began quietly re-inspecting her work, searching for flaws, but found none. Soon Superintendent Walter Brinage himself observed her for 45 minutes as she assembled a main spar in record time. When confronting her, his neutral voice betrayed a hint of respect as he noted she was 30% faster than veteran workers and told her, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, and if anyone gives you trouble, you come directly to my office." The trouble escalated immediately. Her tool cart was moved, drill bits replaced with dull ones, her stool disappeared, her airline sabotaged. She adapted, arriving earlier, buying her own bits, bringing a stool from home, learning to fix air leaks. By week 12, she built 21 components. By week 13, 23, breaking the all-time record. Younger male workers disliked her resilience. An anonymous note appeared in her locker accusing her of sleeping with inspectors, and gossip spread despite QC officers triple verifying her flawless assemblies. Sabotage worsened, defective parts delivered to her station, missing bolt holes, scratched stress points, and she began pre-inspecting everything to stay ahead. Her blueprints started disappearing, so she sketched key dimensions in her notebook. Even the union steward advised her to slow down for the sake of male job security, but Dorothy refused. When her entire toolbox was finally broken into and all her precision instruments stolen, she stormed into Brinage's office and he immediately opened a security investigation, ordered company-funded replacement tools, and relocated her to the supervisor's platform in clear view of the entire floor. A Seattle newspaper soon published a feature about her record-breaking work, followed by a national war effort newsreel titled Wings of Victory, showing her riveting with steady hands and reading complex blueprints as the narrator praised American women stepping into wartime roles. Applications to Boeing surged by 40%, but hostility inside Plant 2 worsened as Dorothy became both a symbol and a threat. A quiet petition circulated demanding equal treatment for all workers, signed by 43, including Ale and the union steward. By war end, victory in Europe brought celebration but also dread as men calculated what peace meant for jobs. Boeing prepared to shrink their wartime workforce from 6,200 to roughly 2,000, with veterans first in line and women categorized as temporary labor destined to be released once the war contracts ended, leaving Dorothy, record breaker, blueprint master, sabotage survivor, and symbol of industrial resilience, standing at the crossroads of triumph and erasure as the nation shifted from wartime necessity back to peacetime tradition.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.